But with that being said, fellas, we can move along to this next fight where we're seeing a bantamweight contest. It's going down between the undefeated Georgian Otar Tanzilov taking on the undefeated fighter from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Josias Musasa. And both of these guys in the fights I watched knocked people the hell out in short order. So I'm sure that they both have power. I didn't get to watch many of their fights, though. So for me, I'm kind of coming in blind here. Seems like two guys that both have a lot of confidence, a lot of striking power. To the point of Musasa, I watched two of his fights. One of them, he was able to mount up in the posture up in the mount for a good amount of time. Looked like he had good balance from that position. I wouldn't say he's like some ground game savant or something like that, but just seems like a guy that if he gets on top of you, it's going to be a problem. Because he can sit on top of your chest and punch holes in your head. So for me, those were the things that I noted. I saw a crazy spinning back kick from the Otar Tanzilov guy. I don't know the quality of his opponent there, but he literally starts the guy instantly. And the shot selection, the timing, everything was good, the distance management. So for me, I just got to do more research on this fight, but I'm curious how you guys feel about it. Every week there's like one fight that I don't get to do as much research. This is the one for me. I ran up against the clock and I only watched like 3 or 4 fights from these guys. So Gordo, we'll start with you, my brother. How do you feel about this matchup? Do you see any upside on a betting perspective?
Yeah, I have to really look at the prop market for sure on this one. I think it's one where you could make some credence to the underdog. I think when we look at bantamweight fighters, not many have more power than this Musasa guy. This guy brings heat. He throws with fighting intention. He does have some very heavy hands, and he is just a power puncher. It's another way to put it. He really lacks that technicality you would like to see, especially in comparison to Otar here, but a guy who is just a threat to finish a fight at all times, and that is reflected by his 100% finish rate, undefeated record, and all those wins except for one coming in the first round. Like, the guy is just powerful. Now he is willing to brawl. He is someone who is more erratic with it. He doesn't have that same technicality, but he will bull rush you, look to get in boxing range, and if he connects us, have the power to go out there and have success. He's still relatively untested. Haven't seen his ground game too much. Haven't really seen him dragged into deep waters, but you know that he's always live for a finish at any time here. And he's facing a guy here in Otar Tanzilov, who I would consider the more technical fighter, a guy who does have a better kicking game, a guy who I think has a better point fighting style, although I don't really know if that's his game at all, but technique-wise, Tanzilov is a guy who I do think has the ability to go out there and throw kicks, manage distance, be the harder guy to read, be the guy who's able to pitter patter and win volume exchanges, and a guy who is able to wrestle if his life depends on it. Now, does he want to all the time? Definitely not. Maybe he want to this one. Maybe. By the way, the KO Wizard, sick nickname. Forgot to mention that. But I think Tanzilov's a guy who just has a more diverse skill set. And although the KO shot is always there for Musasa, Tanzilov seems a guy who I think I can trust to have a more well-rounded game, whether it be the point fighting with his kicking, whether it be the power of his kicks as well, or even the ability to wrestle down the stretch. Although he does have a questionable cardio and has a ground game of his own right, is a guy who I do think has more paths to victory in this matchup, and a guy who I do think can go out there and have success. Betting-wise, I was hoping for a better line because I thought this fight was very heavily implied to go inside the distance, especially with their records. And I was thinking maybe gets a better line on a decision for Tanzilov, but it's only, I think, plus 300 right now. And I think you could do better than that. So to me, it's a fight where I do think Musasa's path to victory is reliant on KO power. He's a guy who will crash the pocket, throw fighting and intention. And you know what? Maybe he's able to land that powerful shot. He does have the fight ending shot. But aside from that, Tanzilov should manage range, should offer kicks of his own right, should threaten to drag Musasa in the areas he hasn't been before, and potentially even wrestle shot, get to that. I think Tanzilov have more paths. I will be picking this matchup, but the Musasa KO one is always live.
Fair play, my brother. And yeah, just scanning his record, he does have one loss via punches in the amateurs on the IMAF scene, it looks like, or even before that, maybe. All the way back in 2018. So his first ever fight, he did lose via TKO. So it's always possible, right? A puncher's chance. On the Musasa side of things, I'm just looking to see if he has an amateur record. He had one canceled amateur bout and then got right to it. So shout out to him. Musasa, he's done all his work as a professional, seemingly. But Pierce, how do you feel about this matchup, my man? Is there anything that you like on this fight?
Yeah, a lot of people are on the Musasa money line, and when you look at like Otar's recent fights, I understand why they want to do it. I mean, Otar, he likes to have the kick in range. He kind of reminds me of like a great like a Wish Zabit, where it's like he has a lot of that kicking style where he likes to be flashy with it, but the UAE fight for Otar is probably a lot of the reason why people are taking the dog shot here. This Denise guy was kind of just pressuring forward, and Otar, I don't know what the hell was wrong with him that fight. The dude gassed after like 6 minutes, and the finish was just very fucking odd from the jump. I think like punched him in the eye, and the Brazilian dude reacted funny, and the ref stopped it. So he was very fortunate to get a win there, but yeah, I don't know what think of this Musasa guy. He is very athletically gifted. I mean, that's the one thing that stands out is this guy's just overall raw power. And while he's only been fighting MMA for like less than 2 years, so it's like, I mean, you can tell this dude is not a technical savant. He's kind of just throwing for the fences, and he's got power for days. So I guess you can maybe look at his round 2 fight for Musasa, where against Diata, where he maybe it was kind of a hectic start. He got dropped like twice by Diata in the first round, but start of the second round, he calmed down. He seemed to be a lot more patient with his hands, which was maybe good to see that he's not like gassing out extremely hard after 5 minutes. But that's not the worst look for Musasa. I just look at this matchup, and Gordo kind of touched on it. Otar is probably a lot more well-rounded. He's more complete of a fighter, whereas Musasa is probably more of a fighter, if that makes sense, where he's going to go for it more. And Otar is probably not someone that's going to oblige to a dick swinging contest. So if Musasa can close the distance, crowd the kicker, and maybe he can hurt him in the pocket, but yeah, I don't know. There's so many question marks on Musasa for me to want to make a play, but I understand why people are doing it. It's just Otar is just he's shown me more substance in his game, and it's I mean minus 200, probably dog or pass at these odds, but I don't know. This Musasa guy seems way too green and raw for me to want to bet at these odds because I think it might be too soon for him.
Just a brawler with power, man, but that power is terrifying.
Yeah, I think you guys hit on a lot of good points here. And honestly, that, I didn't have a lot of tape that I watched, but that rung up with my analysis as well. It just seems like both these guys could probably knock each other out. But the guy who's probably a little cleaner with his technique is the Georgian here. So it should be a good, fun scrap. I'm excited to see how it shakes out. Shout out to our guy Glimbot. Hit the like if you don't mind. It helps other people find the show, and it shows a little love and support. We appreciate that. And we hope that you're enjoying the show. So if you are, drop a like, and we'll keep it moving. Next up, we've got our returning.
Could be a sneaky. I was gonna say could be a sneaky over at plus money if Otar wants to just dance around, try to evade the forward pressure. So plus 110 for the over. Maybe wait. Say that again.
Oh, I was just gonna say, even if he decides to go out there and shoot a takedown and try to mitigate the power.
Yeah. I mean, I don't consider him a big submission threat at all, but the only thing I worry about the takedowns is that Otar's controls kind of shit, and Musasa just seems like the type of guy that's just gonna just explode out of positions like Derek Lewis. So maybe wait for under steam to come in. I expect people will play the under watching the tape, but the over gets like plus 150, I guess. I would probably take a stab just because Otar kind of has that decision style to him. I know you the decision prop. Maybe what is it, plus 300 right now, plus 325? Yeah, probably would want a little bit more than that, but I don't mind that look because Otar's kind of a weasel.
Fair play. I'll have to do a little bit more digging on that one because I could definitely see it ending early. I don't know that either one of those guys are big on defense, but I'll definitely watch more tape and come away with a better read.